The prisoner will be executed by lethal injection. The scene of the death sentence is full of spectators, out of humanitarianism. The injection of euthanasia drugs. Under normal circumstances, the prisoner will lose his vital signs in painlessness. But this prisoner is an exception. The last bottle of injection should not have been conscious, but suddenly woke up, convulsions, painful howls, and finally stopped breathing in the double torture of severe pain and spirit, which made the audience feel very panicked. This situation has never happened, and the police investigated the matter afterward. This is not an accident, but someone replaced the injected drug with poison and left a mark on the bag, so who hates him so much, saying that 10 years ago, this criminal and a fat accomplice broke into a house and robbed 2 robbers. And it was originally just a simple robbery case. But the accomplice fat man was lustful, not only eyeing the young wife, but even the 6-year-old girl did not let go, and brutally killed his wife and daughter in front of the man. It's just a beast in human skin, but soon the 2 robbers were caught. The man thought that the lawyer could help him severely punish the villains, although the 2 robbers were convicted, but the sentencing was not fair. The fat man who did not kill was sentenced to death, and the fat man who killed his wife and daughter was only sentenced to 3 years, so the case was hastily closed. And after the trial, the fat man shook hands with the man's lawyer to express his gratitude, and this scene happened to be in the distance of the man in full view. He was not angry, more desperate. He just turned around coldly. But he disappeared in this turn 10 years later. The villain fat man has long been at large. When he saw his companion died tragically in the execution ground, the news not only did not have a trace of pity, but a face of ridicule. As the old saying goes, good people live short lives, bad people live long is not a lack of report. The time has not come. The fat man at this time does not know that death has found the fat man. Pick up the phone. A voice tells him that the police are coming to arrest him. The fat man still didn't believe it, but when he climbed the window and saw that the police were really coming, the fat man quickly ran away, followed the mysterious instructions on the phone, escaped the pursuit of the police, but was guided to a police car. There was a sleeping police officer in front of the car. The fat man grabbed the pistol and held the police officer hostage, and finally stopped in an abandoned warehouse. The fat man was ready to kill him, but at this moment, the phone rang again. The fat man picked up the phone. The voice on the phone was actually the police officer in front of him. When the police officer turned around and took off the wig, the fat man recognized him at a glance, and he was the man who disappeared 10 years ago. The fat man immediately shot, but he didn't expect to trigger the mechanism. Countless stingers popped out of the gun stick and pierced into the fat man's palm. The fat man was like being pointed, unable to move, although this poison has a paralyzing function. But the pain nerve is completely normal. That is, the fat man just can't move, but he can feel the pain. The man started his revenge. The man tied the murderer of his wife and daughter to the operating table, and the toxin on the fat man's body made him unable to move, but he could feel the pain completely. Then the man injects him with a shot of adrenaline to keep his nerves active and make sure he doesn't pass out in the rest of the game. Then shows him various props in front of him and tells him what each knife is for, and then whispers something that fat people often say: "You can't fight fate." This sentence is exactly what is written on the packaging of the medicine bottle, and then put a whole mirror in front of him. Let him admire the whole process of being pulled by the big crab with his own eyes, and at the same time let the man's wife and daughter see it to avenge them. At this time, the fat man has been caught in the fart. Then the next picture is very good. If you are interested, you can watch it yourself. In order to pass the trial, I didn't let go. A few days later, the police found the fat man's body, but it had been cut into 25 pieces. Even if the detectives who often handle the corpse shredding case saw the scene and couldn't help but want to vomit, the police soon found the man's head, because this warehouse was in the man's name. And then the police all went to the man's house to find him. But what the police didn't expect was that the man was naked, obediently waiting for bedtime, and then calmly followed the police out of the door. His eyes stared at Lao Hai, and his eyes were full of indifference and contempt. Lao Hai thought it was over, but he didn't know that the man's revenge had just begun. The police found a large number of law books in his house. Lao Hai picked up a book casually. This is a book that only professionals can understand. There are newspapers on the wall that Lao Hai and the fat man shook hands. Lao Hai came to the prison to see the man. He is now a famous prosecutor. This is to convict the man. They are all veterans 10 years ago. Lao Hai got straight to the point and asked the man if the fat man was killed by you, but Lao Hai didn't expect it. A CD was sent to his home. The little daughter thought it was a cartoon and skillfully played the stacked film, but the picture inside was the whole process of the man torturing the fat man and killing people. The little daughter was so frightened that her face was black and she cried, although the police got the CD. But there was still no way to convict her, because the murderer in the picture was wearing a hood, and she couldn't tell who it was. And the next day, a super soft mattress was sent to the prison, and the prison exploded. A few days later, the court held a trial. Lao He asked the judge not to let the man out of prison. The man stood up, used his proficient legal knowledge to defend himself, and even made all the lawyers present speechless. And finally, because of insufficient evidence, the man was sentenced to be released in court. And Lao He had no choice. But he didn't expect the man to suddenly start mocking the judge at this time. And he also spat all kinds of fragrant words. Obviously, I am guilty. Why did you let me go? What is the difference between this and the murderer who killed my wife and daughter 10 years ago? Yes, he's the judge who was bribed by the fat man to the fat man and sentenced him to 3 years. And the man slapped him hard in front of everyone. And then the judge who pleaded guilty in public and couldn't hold his face put the man back in the cell. Lao Hui came to find the man again. The man confessed to his crime, but the man made another condition. He wanted to eat a top-notch kick drum steak and asked to send it on time at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Lao He smiled again. You have all pleaded guilty. Who will pay attention to you? You can ignore it. But I arrested the corrupt lawyer who defended the fat man back then. Lao Hai hurriedly asked about the lawyer, and sure enough, the lawyer had disappeared. So he hurriedly helped the man to arrange the steak. But this made the warden very unhappy. He rarely could eat this kind of steak. Why should a prisoner go through a few more security checks? Deliberately sent the steak in after it was cold and waited for the steak to be delivered. It was 8 minutes late, and the man ate the steak and told the old black lawyer where he was tied up lawyer. And the old black took the people to go quickly. But by the time he found the man, the lawyer had suffocated to death, and the time of death happened to be the time the warden had delayed, and the man's calculations were almost exactly the same. But a prisoner in prison had confused the people outside, who was the holy man, sharing the kicking drum steak with his fellow inmates and giving him a large chunk. When the steak was almost eaten, he hid the kick bone and slowly walked to Yu Yu's side and then killed Yu Yu with the cow bones. Of course, it wasn't because Yu Yu ate a lot of steak. Why do we talk later? When the warden saw the tragic situation, his jaw dropped in fright. Don't think about it. The man was locked up in a small black room. After Lao Hai's investigation, he knew that the man was not an ordinary person. He was a military advisor of the second class of the Intelligence Bureau, a tactical genius, a chess master. You move 1 step, he has thought of 10 steps. From the moment the thin man was executed, everything was under his control. Lao Hai didn't believe that the man was so powerful, he must have someone tied him outside. Lao Hai asked the judge to prohibit men from contacting anyone, and the judge agreed. Just after signing the letter, the judge was directly hugged by the head. Lao Hai ended up on the spot, and then Lao Hai's female assistant and several colleagues who participated in the case were also killed in their cars. And what was even more terrifying was that at the funeral of his colleagues, a remote-controlled machine gun fired at them mercilessly, and a missile took away several judicial high-level officials. Things are getting bigger and bigger. The mayor personally announced that he has entered a state of alert, and the whole process is on alert 24 hours a day. Such a big action is just to prevent a prisoner who is locked up in prison. Lao Hai can only desperately investigate, busy day and night, anxious, inadvertent. Lao Hai found an anonymous email in the computer, which marked several properties in the man's name. After investigation, it was found that there was a property that happened to be next door to the prison. When they sneaked into the room, the scene in front of them frightened them. This building actually has a secret passage. There are a large number of weapons and equipment, as well as a variety of monitoring. You can observe every move in the prison. And this secret passage just leads to the small black room of the prison. This is simply a luxury, single room. See this note. From the time he obediently went to bed, he was deliberately caught in prison. Why did he kill his cellmate? Just to be locked in a single room, so that he could perform his aerial killing stunt. Everyone thought he was trapped, but no one knew that he was freer than anyone else. And the man had already disguised himself at this time, mixed into the municipal building, installed a remote-controlled bomb. Fortunately, Lao Hai, they found out in time, and found a bomb disposal expert to defuse the bomb. But the bomb was too sophisticated. Everyone was helpless. At this time, Lao Hai thought of a way. The man prepared everything, returned to the cell, but found that Lao Hai had been waiting here for a long time. The man knew that Lao Hai had discovered his secret. Not only did he not feel surprised, but there were some surprises. Lao Hai finally persuaded the man not to be obsessed anymore, but the man still had to talk to Lao Hai about the conditions. Lao Hai decisively refused. He already knew his mistake. He would not negotiate terms with the criminal. Seeing Lao Hai admit his mistake, the man said that he was very relieved. Lao Hai finally understood that no matter what time he could not negotiate terms with the criminal. This was given to him by the man, and it was also the result that the man wanted. The man took out his mobile phone and was about to detonate Lao Hai, and hurriedly ran out of the cell, locked the door, and slipped away. It turned out that the bomb had been transferred by Lao Hai to the man's bed. When the man found him, he didn't panic, but smiled slightly. This seems to have expected this day, because his goal has been achieved. He slowly sat on the bed, took out the bracelet that his daughter made for him, looked at it quietly, and waited for death. Okay, the story is over here. Thank you for your perseverance. I am a storyteller. Bath, thank you for your praise and support. If you like to pay attention, watch a good movie. Don't get lost. We'll see you next time.
Get ready for the next video by subscribing and hitting the notification bell. That will definitely help you stay tuned.